Fox Urgent, I'm Harris Faulkner. As you can see on the other side of the screen here, we are now listening to the verdict in the trial of a man accused of killing a teenager in an argument about loud music. It is day 4 of deliberations for this jury in Florida. Wrapping up now on trial, 47-year-old Michael Dunn. Let's watch and listen.
Verdict is to count 5. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of shooting or throwing deadly missiles as charged in the indictment. So say we all, done in Jacksonville, Duval County, Florida. Juror number 7, 4-person, dated February 15th, 2014.
Does anybody need the jury polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 1, are these your true and correct verdicts? Yes. Juror number 2, are these your true and correct verdicts? Juror number 3, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 4, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 5, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 6, are these your true and correct verdicts? Yes. Juror number 7, are these your true and correct verdicts? Yes. Juror number 8, are these your true and correct verdicts? Juror number 9, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 10, are these your true and correct verdicts? Juror number 11, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 12, are these your true and correct verdicts? Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, I've said it several times, but I need to say it again. I want to thank you for your hard work, your time, your attention, and your dedication throughout these last almost 2 weeks. There will never be words that I could ever express to you to tell you how grateful I am, and that we all are, for your service, your consideration and dedication to this process. It's been a long 13 days, I believe now, and when you came on Monday, you recognized that obviously you were here for jury service and you had a civic duty to perform, and you have embraced that, and I truly appreciate it. I've watched you throughout these last 2 weeks, and I know how hard it has been for you and how difficult it has been for you, but you have performed your duties with the absolute utmost of professionalism. You are why this justice system is the greatest in the world. So from all of us, let me again extend my gratitude and thanks. Before I release you, I do want to advise you of some distinct privileges you have as jurors. And I alluded to this, I believe, back Monday or Tuesday of last week. And this is the last jury instruction that I will read to you. No juror can ever be required to talk about the decisions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from the attorneys, or elsewhere. It will be up to you to decide whether or not to preserve your privacy as a juror. You should know that your decision whether to talk about your experience is entirely yours. It's an individual decision. You do not have to vote on this as a group. Please remember, though, that my order regarding the confidentiality, your identity, remains in effect. That order will remain in effect until further order of the court. So I want you to keep that in mind. If you were to decide that you wanted to speak to someone about this case, whether it was family, friends, or the media, I would ask you to please not identify any of your fellow jurors. Because of the publicity that has surrounded this case, I have also been asked to advise you that if you wish to speak to the media today, we can arrange for a court administrator to escort you to the adjacent courtroom, which is courtroom 407, for you to be interviewed if that were your desire. Basically, we will take you through a back hallway and into this adjacent courtroom where you could be interviewed either on camera or off camera. You could be interviewed either with your voice recorded or not. That would be your choice if you decide to do that. You don't have to. you can just decide that you want to collect your belongings, and we will transport you back to the hotel to collect the remainder of your belongings and allow you to then go home. Keep in mind that if you decide to speak to the media, either tonight or at any time, then the confidentiality of your identity, obviously, would not any longer be in effect. So I tell you that, and then you can tell the bailiff when you are excused from the courtroom as to your decision regarding an interview today. And if that's your choice, fine, we'll arrange for it. If not, then we'll have transportation for you back to the hotel. Again, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you for your willingness to be a part of our justice system and for your dedicated service in this case. At this time, you are released, and I wish you a safe trip home and Godspeed.
All right, we have been watching now, and you saw it there. We caught it about halfway through the reading of the verdicts, which Dunn was found guilty of. I've got Greg Jarrett, who's sitting here next to me now, and he's been covering this the better part of the day, also an attorney on our Fox family. You know, Greg, we knew that there were 5 of these counts. First-degree murder was the first. It looks like now they're hung on that, guilty of the other 4. Break it down. What does this mean?
Well, it's very interesting. They found him guilty of attempted second-degree murder. Now, if they found that he intended to kill but didn't accomplish it of 3 of the passengers in the car, including the driver, why wouldn't they find him guilty of second-degree murder? It appears to be inconsistent and inexplicable, but not unusual. It often happens that jurors just can't decide on one particular count.
Let's remind everybody, because from your show to this show, I mean, there was a commercial break and you physically came downstairs in the elevator. What happened here? So this is in Jacksonville area, Florida, and this happened in 2012, late 2012, and the altercation between young man who was killed, Jordan Davis, 17 years old, others in the car with him as well, SUV, loud music being played. The charges against the suspect, Dunn, were of murder for opening fire at this intersection. Now take us forward to where we are with these charges.
All right, so the jury is hung up on the first charge, which is the top count of first-degree murder. But, and by the way, first-degree murder is planning and premeditating a killing. And courts have said you can plan and premeditate in a matter of seconds. But the judge included what are known as lesser included: second-degree murder, depraved indifference to human life, no premeditation, and, importantly, voluntary manslaughter, which is essentially somebody acting, that man right there on the screen, acting on a sudden impulse in a fit of anger, the heat of passion. Jurors couldn't decide on any of those in the first count. And now the prosecution has the opportunity, the judge declaring a mistrial on that one count only, the prosecutors can decide to retry him on the top count of murder.
Interesting. And that was the big question today. You know, I want to talk to you about something that happened about an hour and a half ago with this judge. It was really interesting because he had answered a question from this jury. And the question was, well, if we're stuck on one part, do the other 4 parts count?
Right.
So we knew that potentially this was coming anyway. The judge misspoke. Apparently what he meant to say was, well, if you can't come to an agreement on one of the counts, then that count can be hung. He accidentally said the case is hung. It's a hung jury. He came back 30 minutes ago and said, no, let me fix that.
Yeah, very discerning jurors, because that caused a confusion, so they sent out another note, which essentially said, what do you mean by that, Judge? And then he had to clarify. So very smart jurors.
Is that a problem, though, in this case? I mean, could that judge have messed stuff up by not understanding what they were asking?
He cured it. The law says that is a satisfactory remedy. It's called a cure by the judge. In other words, no harm, no foul. But look, 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder and a gun charge conviction on top of it. He is likely, Michael Dunn, looking at life behind bars.
And that was my next question. In the state of Florida, now, is this a state thing? I mean, would every state be different on how this works out?
Every state has different rules for murder, first and second, and voluntary manslaughter, and the punishment, the corresponding punishments, are different.
I mean, specifically, though, about this rule about, well, if you can't agree on one of the counts, only that count is hung. The case still stands the way it is with the other verdicts intact.
Listen, the unanimous decision of guilty of second-degree attempted murder stands. Now, of course, the accused can appeal, and we don't know the full record, appellate record that may be there or not there. But prosecutors appeared to be, as we watched this trial, very, very careful in the presentation of evidence.
You know, I'm seeing on Twitter, and it's a fair question, why did this trial get such attention? Was it the fact that it was loud music, and that's something that, a lot of people hear when they roll up in an SUV? I mean, why do you think it's gotten such high profile?
Well, I think that's it. It's sort of maybe a sort of a generational thing. Young people in their loud music, and a guy
Michael Dunn was only 47.
Well, that's different than being a teenager, 20 and 25 years old, something. And Jordan Davis, I think, was 17 years old, right?
He's 17.
So there's
true.
not only an age and generational difference, but race played a role, not as much overtly as in the Zimmerman trial, but trust me, it was there in the Michael Dunn trial.
Explain that to me, if you would, please, because people will watch this and they'll say, well, but the jury didn't talk about that. We didn't hear a whole lot about that. That's true. We don't know. But in the case alone, though, when you've watched what's happened inside that Florida courtroom, it hasn't been reported that that's been something that they've been focused on.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the Zimmerman trial, race played a role notwithstanding the prosecutor's closing argument, and he said this is not a case about race. It really was in many, many ways. Now, we don't know what's going through the minds of the jurors, but subtly and psychologically, it may have influenced their decision. They may have thought that Dunn acted out of racial animus. We just don't know. And these jurors may speak about it. They may choose not to. They don't have to.
Well, and the judge said, it's up to them if they want to talk. Right. I wonder, though, if more so than race or anything else, if the past case of Zimmerman played a role in any of this, if that were perhaps on people's minds. I mean, I guess that, to me, is more of a billboard than race or any other issue.
Because it had something else in common. It had
the prosecution.
It had self-defense in common. I mean, his entire defense to the attempted murder charges and the murder charges was, I acted in self-defense. I feared imminent, serious bodily injury or death by Jordan Davis, who the defendant claimed aimed a shotgun at him. And that's why Michael Dunn grabbed a pistol out of the glove compartment of his car and shot, he claimed, in self-defense. Clearly, the jurors didn't buy it because they convicted on 3 counts of attempted murder.
And again, I mean, from everything that I've read, this prosecution team had some things in common with the Zimmerman prosecution team. We'll learn more about that in the days to come, and we'll see if those jurors actually talk about this case. But tonight, Michael Dunn found guilty on 4 of those 5 counts.
I would love to hear from the jurors how they justify convictions of attempted murder, but not murder, because it was all one act. And so it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, but doesn't have to. I mean, they can do whatever they want to do. In fact, jurors can actually ignore the law and do what they want to do.
Even though they kept asking the judge to clarify, they can still do what they want.
Absolutely.
Greg Jarrett, thank you
for
being on Fox Report Weekend and breaking it all down.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and expertise.